Welcome to the masterclass. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on a massively important, high-stakes component of the Cambridge Afrikaans language AS level syllabus, specifically paper 8679. We are looking squarely at the essay topics encompassing education, cultural life, and heritage. If you're prepping for this exam, you already know the source material is incredibly rich and honestly quite complex. But here is the harsh reality that catches out so many bright students. Simply understanding the cultural history or memorizing the educational systems isn't quite enough on its own. It's just not. You need a tactical blueprint for how Cambridge actually assesses that knowledge when you're staring down a daunting, high-tariff 9 to 15 mark question. As a curriculum architect and examiner, I've seen exactly where candidates hemorrhage marks. And more importantly, I know exactly what the top 1% do differently. We're going to systematically break down how to dissect these complex questions, how to master your time allocation, and how to deploy critical thinking strategies that examiners practically beg for. And if you're wondering why we are zeroing in so intensely on this specific triad of topics, well, this finding from the principal examiner reports perfectly summarizes the stakes. The data reveals a stark, unavoidable reality. This specific topic area is completely non-negotiable for your success. Why? Because it is guaranteed to appear in your exams. Literally, every single examination series features it. You simply cannot afford to skip, skim, or cram your preparation for education, cultural life, and heritage. It is the absolute cornerstone of the assessment. But knowing it's coming gives you a massive strategic advantage. It means we can build a bulletproof strategy right here, right now, so that when you sit down in that exam hall, you aren't guessing, you are executing a proven game plan. So here is our tactical roadmap for today's session. We'll start with core concepts, move into our procedural framework, level up with critical analysis, and finally, we'll cover the most urgent examiner warnings. Let's get straight into it. Section 1. Core Concepts and Theoretical Foundations. Let's deconstruct exactly what the examiners expect from you. Our subject specialists continually note that candidates frequently struggle to separate basic definitions from higher-order thinking. I want to illustrate this by taking you inside a digital study suite with two scholars I was working with recently. Let's call them Alex and Sam. Now, Alex is highly technical. He excels at memorizing formulas, historical dates, and hard facts. Sam, on the other hand, is a creative thinker, brilliant at forming overarching arguments, but totally struggles with structural precision and timing. When they both looked at a complex essay prompt about the evolution of Afrikaans cultural heritage, their initial approaches were completely different. Alex immediately wanted to list every single historical fact about language policies. Sam wanted to write a sweeping philosophical essay about identity. Both of them were falling into a massive trap because they completely misread the command word anatomy. Examiners use very specific command words. There's a world of difference between analyze and evaluate, or explain and to what extent. Explain just asks for the how and why, but to what extent, that requires you to weigh up different factors and make a judgment. Alex was treating an evaluate question like an explain question, and that right there is where the real marks are lost. Examiners don't just want to know that you've memorized the vocabulary. They want to see if you can manipulate that terminology to navigate the hidden constraints of the prompt. This brings us to a massive debate Alex and Sam had during our session, the battle of superficial breadth versus analytical depth. Alex kept pushing for a purely factual approach, arguing that if he just included 10 different historical events regarding mother tongue education, the examiner would have to give him an A. Sam was pushing back, arguing for a broader, conceptual perspective, but she didn't have the specific facts to anchor her argument. I had to step in and stop them both. Cambridge is specifically looking for deep, logical, and structured reasoning. They would much rather you take 2 or 3 profound points, like exploring the exact cultural impact of the Afrikaans Taal monument or a specific localized language policy, and analyze those deeply. That means unpacking the causes, the effects, and the counterarguments. This is analytical depth. Giving a shallow, bullet point overview of 10 different historical events is superficial breadth, and it is a one-way ticket to a mediocre grade. Depth always, always wins. When you structure your essay, every single paragraph needs to earn its place by drilling down into the why and the how, rather than just listing the what. To actually achieve that depth and unlock those top-tier marking bands, you have to satisfy 3 very distinct cognitive domains. These are your assessment objectives, commonly known as AO1, AO2, and AO3. Let's break them down. First, knowledge and understanding. This was Alex's comfort zone. You absolutely must know the granular facts about the heritage and the language. Without facts, you have no foundation. Second is analysis. This is where you break those facts down and interpret their relationships. How does a change in educational policy actually shift cultural life in a rural Afrikaans community? Third, and most importantly, is evaluation. This is where Sam naturally gravitated, but without the structure. Evaluation means you have to judge the significance of these relationships and weigh competing arguments. Successful candidates, the ones securing the top marks, demonstrate seamless competence across all three of these domains. They weave them together, proving they have a connected, conceptual understanding that transfers perfectly to completely unfamiliar contexts on exam day. If you only give facts, you cap your score. If you only give opinions, you cap your score. You need the triad. Section 2. Procedural framework. Let's transition into building a highly practical, technical methodology for exam day. Now, before we solve the absolute hardest part of this procedural framework, I want to pause our masterclass for just a quick second. Crushing Cambridge exams doesn't happen by accident. It requires consistent, elite-level strategy. So if you want to guarantee you never miss a weekly Cambridge breakthrough, you need to subscribe to the channel Ace the Exam's IGCSE O&A levels at handle @AceTheExam_IGCSE. Hit that subscribe button right now, turn on all notifications, and join a community of scholars who are actively engineering their success. Okay, let's get back into the framework. To tackle the complex stimulus materials they throw at you, you need to follow a standardized 5-step sequence precisely. I made Alex and Sam draft a model response paragraph by paragraph using this exact sequence. Step 1. Deconstruct the question. Highlight the command word and the core topic. Step 2. Extract relevant data. Ignore the noise in the text, only pull what serves your argument. Step 3. Select your analytical framework. Are you comparing past versus present, urban versus rural? Step 4. Execute with clear notation and terminology. Step 5. Verify the results. Does your conclusion actually answer the specific prompt? During our session, Alex and Sam hit a massive roadblock right between steps 4 and 5. They were losing track of time, and their paragraphs felt totally disconnected. I had to use a specific cognitive strategy to get them unstuck. I told them to map their transition sentences first, before writing the core of the paragraph. It completely changed the game. It transformed a mediocre, disjointed answer into a flawless, full-mark response. And this perfectly illustrates the method mark strategy. Look, exam anxiety is entirely real. We have all had that terrifying moment of panic halfway through writing a complex response where you suddenly think, wait, is this even right? In a language and essay-based subject, showing you're working isn't about math. It means making your logical thought process completely visible to the examiner on the page. Don't just jump from a piece of evidence straight to a massive conclusion. Walk the examiner through your brain. Show the distinct steps you took to interpret the text. Why is this absolutely crucial? Because applying correct formats and showing your analytical progression can actually save your grade through method marks. Even if you make a slight conceptual error or draw an imperfect conclusion at the very end because you ran out of time, the examiner can still award you massive points for a rigorous, well-structured process. The methodology itself is highly rewarded. Never hide your reasoning. Section 3. Critical Analysis. Now we step up to the highest marking tier, Evaluative Insights. Let's move into an immersive workshop segment right now. I want you to actively engage with this. The absolute highest scoring candidates unlock the top tier bands by deploying something called evaluative thinking. Imagine you are faced with a complex dataset or a dense text excerpt about Afrikaans cultural life. Most students will just describe what the text says. Evaluative thinkers do not accept statements at face value. They aggressively question assumptions. For instance, if a text claims an educational reform was universally beneficial, an evaluative thinker asks, beneficial for whom? What about the rural Afrikaans-speaking communities versus the urban ones? They actively consider opposing perspectives, they evaluate alternative approaches, and above all, they rigorously justify every single decision with concrete, irrefutable evidence from the text or their deep syllabus knowledge. It's about showing the examiner that you understand the gray areas. Nothing in cultural heritage is black and white, and your essays need to reflect that sophisticated nuance. Whenever you are asked to evaluate in this paper, I want you to deploy this specific problem-solving mantra. I call it the Deconstruct, Solve, Evaluate framework. Let's play a quick game of Spot the Flaw. In our minds, imagine a poorly written student answer that just boldly claims, the tall monument is the most important cultural symbol and everyone agrees. What are the errors there? It lacks evidence, it ignores alternative viewpoints, and it jumps to an unjustified conclusion. To fix that, use the mantra. First, identify the given information from your sources. Second, break the cultural or educational problem into logical steps. Third, solve it systematically by exploring multiple angles. Fourth, check your argument for reasonableness. Does this actually make sense in the complex, real-world context of South African history? And finally, make highly prized, justified recommendations or conclusions. By forcing yourself through this rigorous checklist, you systematically eliminate those vague, subjective flaws and replace them with elite, evidence-based critical analysis. Section 4. Examiner Warnings. Before you sit for the exam, we urgently need to pivot to a reality check.
I spend a lot of time analyzing principal examiner reports, and I can tell you that candidates historically hemorrhage marks on these exact three pitfalls year after year. Mistake number one, providing vague, sweeping theories instead of specific details. Saying something like heritage is important for identity is incredibly weak. You must use precise, grounded examples. Name the specific policies, the specific authors, the specific historical shifts. Mistake number two, forgetting format and presentation checks. Your essay structure matters immensely. If you hand in a massive wall of text without clear paragraphing or transitional markers, the examiner cannot follow your logic, and your analysis marks will tank. And mistake number three, which is frankly the most fatal, ignoring the specific context given in the stimulus. If the prompt asks about recent mother tongue education legislation, do not give a generic, pre-memorized answer about the general history of schools from 50 years ago. You must anchor your response specifically to the context they provide. By the end of our digital study session, both Alex and Sam had massive personal breakthroughs. Alex realized that his facts were useless without a conceptual argument, and Sam realized her creative arguments were invisible without a rigid structure to present them. This slide beautifully synthesizes our entire masterclass into three core, memorable pillars. First, the three-step question scan. Understand those cognitive domains, knowledge, analysis, and evaluation, and identify what the command word is demanding. Second, the paragraph balance formula. Obsessively use the procedural framework to show your analytical workings and ensure every paragraph has evidence, analysis, and a mini evaluation. And third, the last 5 minutes review checklist. Relentlessly check your specific context to avoid the vague, unanchored traps that examiners warn about. If you master the concepts, deploy the framework, and avoid the pitfalls, you are engineering a top-tier grade. So, armed with this insider blueprint straight from Cambridge examiners, the real question is this. The next time you sit down with a blank 8679 past paper, are you just going to blindly memorize facts and hope for the best? Or are you going to strategically analyze them like an elite examiner? Remember the mantra, deconstruct, solve, evaluate. Before you go, I need you to take action right now. Crushing these Cambridge exams requires relentless, strategic consistency. Hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exam's IGCSE O and A levels at @acetheexam_IGCSE. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss an exam hack. And right now, go down to the comments and proudly declare your target grade for this subject. Put it out there, commit to the strategy, and let's go get it. Good luck out there.